All right, back here for our Cougar Coaches Show at Global Brew, presented by Urban Chestnut Brewing Company. Joe Pott, now joined by the head men's basketball coach, Brian Baroni. Coach, thanks as always for coming out.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Coming off a two-game week last week, starting with the Green Bay game at home, the thing that really struck me about that game, it didn't feel like there was anything flashy. It was just a very business-like approach from your guys. Go out there and pick up a nice win at home.
Yeah, we needed that. We needed ourselves to go out there and kind of just be who we are. One of our themes or mottos for the year is simple. We just want to simplify things, and it's an acronym that we utilize. But we just want to keep it simple. We wanted to do our job, get kind of back to our roots of who we are. We didn't play well the previous game. We had a nice stretch where we were playing pretty well, so it was nice to see the balanced scoring and everything like that from our team as well.
Balanced scoring, and the other thing that you and I talk a lot about is moving the basketball. You had 11 assists. It's not a huge number, but you only had 8 turnovers that night.
Yeah, you had 11 assists. I think we had 39 or 39 free throws. So when you look at that, we probably created another, 10 to 12 points at least on what would be an assisted basket. That was a foul, and we went and knocked down a couple free throws, especially early in the game. So I liked how the ball was moving. I liked that we took care of the ball. Part of it is, taking the right shot as well, which allowed us to, 8 or 9 turnovers, took good shots, got to the line 39 times, and that's a recipe for success, and we did a pretty good job with that.
You come out yesterday at Ball State. Obviously not the result that you were looking for yesterday. One of the highlights from yesterday, obviously, is Rayshon Taylor eclipses 1,000 career points.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to celebrate, successes. In this profession or this business, you have to celebrate your wins, and you never want to take away a win. And Rayshon scoring 1,000 points is a win, not just because it's 1,000 points and it looks cool and you can make a graphic and things like that, but part of his story of his willingness to believe in what we were trying to do 4 years ago, overcoming adversity and still producing. That's the thing. Like, this young man hit a game-winning shot less than 3-4 weeks ago. He's scoring his 1,000th point, and it hasn't been a traditional road for him. So those 1,000 points are extremely well earned that go far beyond the games where he scored them.
And the game specifically at Ball State, as I said, I know it's not what you like. There were some good things about that game. One of the things that, again, turnovers, I think he had 1 turnover in the second half yesterday. So something that was much better after halftime. Obviously gave up a bunch of threes, and that was something I know that probably was something that also you talked about at halftime, just limiting that. What was Ball State able to do to kind of get open, get those threes yesterday?
I think one of the things that they did a good job of was they moved the ball through the end of the shot clock. We guarded, we had the good coverages for about 20 seconds, maybe 22 seconds. And then they hit a shot. It kind of broke down late. We had some miscommunication. And then, you leave them open. They feel comfortable in the first half. I want to say they were 6 for 12 maybe in the first half. So they saw the ball go in early. And every time that they had an opportunity, when we cut it to 4, I felt like they hit 2 threes back to back. And that's where we have to grow and really lock down, take it to that next step, and guard all 30 seconds. And then finish with a rebound. We did that a couple times too. We guarded, we had missed a shot, we had some rotation, we didn't get into the guy's thighs and do what we needed to do, and they capitalized on it. So it was a good game from the perspective of you learn a lot. It was a good game because it was a heck of an opponent on the road. It was a conference-like situation, and now we got to build on what we learned from ourselves yesterday.
We talked about that during last week's show, that it's very intentional the way you schedule, and it's intentional that you're playing teams that would mimic an OVC team. And we talked about it yesterday on the broadcast, that Ball State, if you look at Ken Palm numbers, would have been essentially the number 3 team in the OVC, and a team that in reality it was never really a double-digit game until they stretched it out at the end with some free throws. Are you able to kind of take that back to your team and say we're playing right here with what essentially would be the top of the league?
Yeah, I mean, you want to come in there. Excuse me. You want to come in there and you want to come away and explain to our guys, okay, especially on the road.
Yeah.
Like we want to go get you want to go win on the road. Those just feel a little extra sweet. And all right, it's a 4-point game with 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. Now, where were our mistakes that we could have had a 1-point lead at that point in the game? And then also, where were our mistakes or successes that got us to 4 point? I thought our resilience to continue to never let the game get away from us when we weren't totally clicking defensively. Let up 82, 84 points. That's not going to be a recipe for success. But again, I don't always like learning this way, but it's good to learn. And that's why we intentionally do go schedule a game like this on the road this time of the year. When they have 10, 11 games under their belt as well, they kind of know who they are. We kind of know who we are, and you come away, really being able to utilize this experience here in the next 3-4 weeks.
And something else that I think, maybe a peek behind the curtains, but with an early start time, it's a 2 o'clock start there at Ball State. Not a great situation for getting a shoot around in early. They wanted to give you a really early shoot around. You were doing a little walkthrough in the hotel, very tournament like. I felt like as you had the tape out in the hotel, and you had to have the guys kind of do a little bit of an untraditional walkthrough there.
We had a 7 a.m. walkthrough, and that's not the norm
right.
when you have that given to you for a 2 o'clock game, and there's not 2 or 3 teams before you, so you make do. You find a way to do what you need to do and still get your information to your team. You have to pick. It's a unique start time. You got to kind of balance when do you eat, when do you wake up, when do you walk through, or how you do it, and it's just part of the process. And it's part of the deal of learning how to win on the road or through unique circumstances. There's just different circumstances because there's so many ways you can look at it. So we prepared accordingly. We just didn't execute like we needed to.
Coach, as always, appreciate the time here. We're going to visit with your assistant, Colin Schneider. We're going to talk a little bit more about that Green Bay game. I know one that he scouted, and then we'll have you back, and we'll look ahead to what's coming up for your team in just a bit.
Don't get them started on the Packers.
That's the Cougars head coach, Brian Baroni. We're coming back with the assistant coach, the associate head coach, for the Cougars. That's Colin Schneider. That's coming up in our next segment of our Coaches Show. All right, back for segment number 2 with our men's basketball program. It's our Cougar Coaches Show. It's presented by Urban Chestnut. We're glad to be out here at Global Brew, and we're going to do this a lot during the new year. We've got 3 shows lined up for January, 3 shows lined up for February. My pleasure now to be joined by the associate head coach for our men's basketball program. He is Colin Schneider, and his 5th season with the Cougars. All of the seasons that Coach Baroni has been here. And you go back to the Green Bay days with Coach Baroni.
We do.
But why was it important for you, or why was it an opportunity you wanted to explore to come here to SIUE with Coach Baroni?
Well, number one, I believe in what he does. I did him when he was at Green Bay, and I was with him there. It was very easy to be like, hey, you got a spot? Like, let's do this again. It was cool to just kind of say, to kind of be full circle all over again. Coach is a very, very heavy family man, which is important to me because I had a young family. Well, I still do have a young family, but I only had 1 kid at that time. Now I have 8. I have 4.
It's a slight exaggeration. It feels like 8, I'm sure.
I have 4. But him being able to understand, like, hey, like, we are family. Coach and I do consider him family. I know he considers my crew family, and that was really, really important for me.
You started with a couple of years on the ops side. Really, when you're in that ops position, I mean, you're getting a look at every single facet of what makes a program go, aren't you?
Yeah, there's a lot that people don't really realize, but that's kind of what my role was when I was at Green Bay as well. So it was a little bit easier of a transition to come here, and then Coach slowly kind of give you more basketball responsibility, because that's ultimately kind of where we're going with this thing.
Of course. So the Green Bay game that the Cougars played on Wednesday, that was your scout. For folks that don't know, I imagine most of our group knows, the assistant coaches have a rotation essentially of scouting the games, as Coach Doran was mentioning as well. But so when you're scouting a game, what are some of the things, and certainly you don't have to get too specific, how many games are you watching, how many past games are you watching on a team?
I'll watch 5. That's kind of what I consider the norm for everybody is 5 games out, and I try to stay as up to date as I can. So like if an opponent is playing tonight, I want to watch the game tonight so I can have some time to digest the stuff and to make sure I'm organized going into maybe what we want to add in practice tomorrow, or, hey, coach, like this is kind of crazy that they're doing it, because you don't want to get kind of rushed at the end, because I think that's where easy mistakes get made. So yeah, it's 5 games out, and then we're really big on, if we played that team in the past, making sure that we watch us playing them, because we have special ways we guard things and special offenses that we obviously do, and we'll be able to tell if it's a common opponent.
When you are watching a team, are there specific things that you pick out or that you are looking for that maybe other coaches aren't necessarily looking for? I mean, I know that you're looking for things like out-of-bounds plays. You're looking for different defensive sets that they're going to present to you. What kind of things kind of catch your eye?
Yeah, the biggest thing is I don't think you can catch everything.
Yep.
I think you kind of have to pick the top 5 or 6 plays, 5 or 6 schemes of every team, and kind of start there. And every team, the more you watch them, the more you're going to get comfortable with them, the more you're going to be able, oh, there's a counter to that play, or hey, they do this every side out of bounds, or hey, out of timeouts, they like to do this a lot. So I think just making sure that you're on top of the main actions and the main sets that these teams run. And if you watch games, it's effort and time. If you take the time to watch it, break it down, and do it the right way, I'm not going to say anyone can do it, but if you work hard enough, you can do it.
How much do you enjoy that part of the job?
Well, I kind of caught a little love for it in the NBA. That's kind of was my role when I was working in the NBA, was the scouting thing. So I kind of just copy and paste kind of the same, process that we did there, kind of doing it here. So I think scouting is kind of one of those things where, it makes you look smart, but I think it's a 7 to 8 point edge for every single basketball game that you play. If you can cover up a baseline out of bounds play, or jump zone when they might not be expecting it. I think those are important little twists to every game that I think helps just win games.
How gratifying is it coming out of a game like Wednesday night, when there were a lot of things that SIUE did right in that game? And as I said to Coach, there wasn't anything that was super flashy. I mean, obviously 39 free throw attempts stick out, but when they take a game plan that you've developed, the coach has developed, and they execute it and come out with a win, that's got to be pretty gratifying.
Yeah, I think the credit really goes to the guys, because we're going to continue to do what we do. We're going to make sure that we're prepared and we practice hard, and everything's, we dot our I's, cross our T's, but the guys need to buy into the ultimate game plan. Coach does a really good job of really hammering home kind of the stuff that I present to him. I try to do a good job of making sure just to follow up with what he's saying, and our message is united. And we spend a lot of hours in the office, watching all the cut-up tapes and going over the report, making sure we're all on the same page. Hey, we might want to guard this that way. But all of that really doesn't matter if you can't get the guys to buy in. And against Green Bay, our guys really bought in.
So I'll ask you this question. When I asked Coach Doran this question, I've asked a lot of coaches, how much do you like conference play? Because it does step up. And when you are, from a scouting standpoint, when you're looking at one team, you're looking at 2 teams. So you're getting so many coaches know so much about all of these other teams.
Well, I will say conference play is a little more stressful.
Right.
And that's okay. But I actually like it from a scouting standpoint, because being around for 5 years now, I kind of know, I have a little bit of a knowledge base.
Oh, sure.
On some of these teams, and you know some of the players. Oh, hey, maybe this guy can do this year, and I think that it makes it a little bit easier. I don't want to say easier, but it just adds to the report, adds to the scout. But conference play it's going to be crazy this year. So scouting, like I said, 7, 8 points. So hopefully we'll squeeze all 7, 8.
Doesn't it also, though, because kind of what they're going to do, the other teams also know kind of what you're going to do, or know some of your tendencies, especially when you're talking about, if like Morehead State and SIUE meet up, these are two coaches that have been there for 5 years at their respective institutions. There's a lot of shared knowledge between those two.
Well, there is, and I think that every year we try to add a nice little twist to something, and we even go as far as to maybe, don't tell anyone, but maybe the second time through conference, we'll try to add a different play. Like, hey, we used to do this on this play, for example. We used to be a pin down. Well, now we're going to set a flare. Just kind of a little twist, so they think that we know that they know what they're doing, but we have a little counter to it.
Hopefully, you're a little less predictable.
Yeah, hopefully.
Coach Colin Schneider, I appreciate you taking some time tonight. For those who don't know, Coach is also a big Green Bay Packers fan. They're getting ready to kick off, so we did promise we would get him out of here before kickoff. But thanks for coming and spending some time with us here at Global Brew.
Of course.
That's Colin Schneider, the associate head coach for the SIUE men's basketball program. We'll finish up here with one more segment with Coach Baroni right after this. Final segment of our Cougar Coaches Show here on this Monday. Again, we've got 3 coming up in January, 3 coming up in February. Thanks so much to Urban Chestnut Brewing Company. Thanks to Global Brew for being our home on Monday nights here for our Coaches Show. Happy to be rejoined by the Cougars head men's basketball coach, Brian Baroni. Coach, just a couple of games remain, obviously, before we get into conference play, as we've talked about a couple of times already tonight. But specifically, again, for you, as I talk to the women's coaches, this is a much different week. We're so go, and this is a week where there's a lot less of that because, and it's more than a week between games for your guys. The Sunday yesterday against Ball State. The next game is Monday. You'll have Central Christian in here at First Community Arena. But what's this week like for your guys?
It's interesting because you're trying to balance, especially nowadays. You don't finals are scheduled for tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and or a 2 o'clock final months out. And now you're learning over these last couple days, some teachers have moved it or canceled it, or it's online. So there's a constant balancing act of kind of just the daily schedule. And you're talking about the training staff, you're talking about obviously our staff, you're talking about the academic staff, the facilities, everyone involved in it has got to really work well together to kind of get through the week in terms of just getting to the court. And then we have graduation, so we won't be on our court past tomorrow. Prior, our next time we'll be on the court, we'll be in our game, or maybe the shoot around, hopefully the night before. So there's just a lot of things behind the scenes that are a little abnormal. It's always hard to stop and then rev it back up.
Right.
After you've been revved up for the last 11 games, the last 4 or 5 weeks. So it's just part of it. Everyone goes through it. It's just part of college basketball, and our guys are locked in. I take a lot of pride in our academics, and we've been fortunate to have extremely good GPAs over these last several years. So we're not gonna take a back seat in that area. Hopefully this week.
That first game that's coming up, which is, again, it's actually a week from tonight. That's the Central Christian game here at First Community Arena. We've talked a couple of times about what those games do for you, what the non-Division I games do for you at this spot. Specifically, as you said, coming off this week without games, it's a little bit of a different schedule. That makes it kind of nice to have an opponent like Central Christian in here on that Monday night, doesn't it?
Yeah, I talked to their coach over this summer. They run different. He does a good job. They run different schemes. They're kind of going through the same thing that we're going through right now in terms of the coming off the finals and such. And when you're trying to balance a schedule, there's that unique window right after finals, because for example, we play Bradley on the 21st. They can't play this week and they can't play last week because their finals start in the middle of the week. So now when you're scheduling in a contract, there's 2 weeks out of December you cannot play. So now that limits you to, and then they have a couple other games scheduled when we can't play. And so you're kind of limited to the 21st or 22nd, or you got to play them in November. But then you're balancing a Detroit game from 4 years ago. So it's a unique puzzle that we kind of piece together. So finding games on particular dates are a little bit more difficult. And we found Central Christian that will come here, I believe, on the 18th, right? Or
Yep.
The 18th. And it'll be good coming right after finals, getting in our gym, going against another a well-coached opponent, and then we go into the Bradley game, and then you go into Christmas. I'm a believer in giving our guys as much time off over Christmas as possible. I think that's as important as an extra day's practice.
Before we get to Christmas, obviously, you do have that Bradley game. This will be the third year in a row that you faced Bradley. A team and a program that means a lot to you personally, outside of just the basketball. Your dad was an assistant coach there for so many years, and I know there is some emotion involved when you get to play a program like that and when you get to go back to Peoria.
Yeah, basketball, coaching, the world of coaching is very interlocked. It's intertwined, and there's a lot of connections there. I have great memories there. I have a picture of me as a ball boy on my dad's team at Bradley in the office. So in my office, I have his stool and it actually has Bradley on it from when he coached in my office as well. And it was, whenever you're able to go to one of your homes. I've had a few homes over the years. It's special. I know we're going to have a lot of family coming down from Chicago and going right into Christmas. And then obviously you have the connections of the people on that staff that we played college basketball together with a couple of those guys, won a championship together with a couple of those guys up at Green Bay as well. So it's a very well coached program. It's a successful program. They'll be towards the top of the Missouri Valley, and it'll be something that we want to go in there and win the game. There's no doubt about that.
And you mentioned that their head coach was at Green Bay. We were talking about some of those connections before. Brian Worrell was the head coach at Green Bay. So I know that part of that makes it a little bit easier, right? When you're trying to get these kind of games scheduled, and this was a 3-game series. So it was at Bradley a couple of years ago. Last year, of course, Bradley in Edwardsville at First Community Arena. But it makes it easier to kind of put some of those pieces together you were talking about.
Scheduling is so much about relationships, right? And sometimes people don't want to play you for one reason or another. Some people don't they don't want to travel. They don't want to schedule you for maybe who you have returning. But to capitalize, you see a lot of our schedule over the year, whether it's Marquette, Northwestern, Creighton, Bradley the last few years. Like there's a lot of relationships that's why we scheduled those opponents as well. So it's nice to have relationships. So it was good to have Bradley come to First Community last year, and hopefully we can go in there and have some success this year. But it's hard to do. It's a balancing act. You have to be able to have open communication and an understanding to kind of navigate the schedule. And fortunately, we've had some good opponents over the years, and we'll finish out this contract with Bradley on the 21st.
And you mentioned having some time over Christmas. And so, of course, the typical OVC schedule is Thursday, Saturday. The first weekend of OVC play here in Edwardsville is going to be Friday, Sunday. And that is specifically yourself and Coach Sam giving your players a little extra time over the Christmas break before you get into the OVC schedule.
I mean, we need Santa to come to the house. We need to make sure we give them enough time in case the weather's bad or whatever the case may be. But it's important. We had a luxury of, and I can't remember why, I think someone might have a bye on that Saturday, so we were able to talk to the OVC, myself, Marty, Chad at Western Illinois. We all had to kind of agree to push that game back a day, and it wasn't for any other reason other than for what we wanted to do is just give our guys an extra. I don't want them coming back on Christmas Day.
Sure, yeah.
You have to do what you always got to put. I'm hired to put our program in a position to have success, and obviously you need to practice to have success. But I think having a fresh body and fresh mind over the holidays, there's so many emotions involved in Christmas, and it's a time to remember what we have and to give grace and be appreciative for what we have. So if we can steal an extra day to just be dad, father, son, husband, whatever the case may be, let's do it. And it's a lot of fun. And we'll do a lot of things with our guys. We'll have a grab bag with our guys. We'll sing carols. We'll do all that kind of stuff. And it's usually a good time of the year for us in our basketball program.
Sounds great. It'll be a lot of fun coming off of a win at Bradley.
That's what I'm talking about. That's it. We're saying it here first.
There you go.
right?
Coach, thanks as always for taking some time and for visiting with us here at Global Brew.
I appreciate it, Joe. Thanks.
That's the Cougars head coach, Brian Baroni. Thanks to all of our guests here tonight. Thanks to Coach Sam, to Coach Dorn, and Coach Schneider for visiting us with us here. And again, we're back for 3 more episodes coming up in January. Have a great holiday. Thanks again to Urban Chestnut Brewing Company and to Global Brew for having us for our Cougar Coaches Show.